President Cyril Ramaphosa signed the Sign Language Bill into law on Wednesday last week, making South African Sign Language the country's 12th official language. This follows the National Assembly's decision to pass the bill with more than the required two-thirds majority vote. South Africa is the fourth country in Africa to declare sign language an official language. For more on this, I'm joined by the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund's Dr. Stanley Maphosa. Dr. Maphosa, thank you so much for speaking to me on Newsnight this evening. Now, we know that the signing of this bill is just the first step on a very long journey towards ensuring inclusivity for the deaf community. But what do you hope it will ultimately achieve?
Thank you very much, Anli, and the listeners of ESNCA. This is what we call a political will. And because government has signed it, as we are saying, it's the first step towards a very important discussion that has been happening over years through advocacy and lobbying. And the changes that we expect is that since it's now an official language, it will be used in official business of government, it will be used in schools, it will be used in the courts of law, it will be used wherever as an official language. That means, teachers need to be trained that are currently teaching children that are deaf, and the resources and everything should be put in place to ensure that this policy does not remain on paper, but it is translated into things that can be used for the sake of the deaf in this country.
South Africans know all too well that a bill often is only a piece of paper until it's implemented and practical change is effected. What are the next steps towards allowing sign language to be an active vehicle for empowerment of previously excluded deaf communities?
For me, the most important issue is to raise the awareness for those that will be using the language. Actually, all of us will be using the language, because this is a language that has already been there, but it has just been officialized. So the awareness creation is critical, the training of teachers, the placing of people in strategic areas, so in health centers, in schools, in social services, in courts of law. There must be people that are placed there and trained to be able to ensure that this happens. So it's not only the training, but also the resources in terms of money should be put aside, budget should be put aside for this, but also the monitoring and evaluation tools to ensure that what has been agreed is implemented and makes the desired impact.
So you're obviously hoping that the Departments of Basic Education and Social Development will play key roles in the process, as you suggest, but they're currently struggling just to get the basics right. We have a serious problem with literacy among primary school learners, and social services is overloaded, to say the least, scraping the bottom of the barrel. Aren't you worried that they simply won't be able to contribute meaningfully, even if budget is allocated and resources are allocated, given the magnitude of our socio-economic issues?
I think that's where people like ourselves, the civil society, play a role to be able to hold those that are in power accountable. Because as a bill, it means it's something that needs to be done. I agree with you that challenges will be there, but it is critical for everyone to just take this as something that needs to be done and take it seriously and put resources together around that. And if there is challenges, be able to communicate openly where the need is required. Because currently there are already schools that are teaching sign language, about 43 schools that are teaching for this language in various parts of the country that can bring in the resources that is needed for government in different places, Department of Social Development, health, and all centers that require this particular skill to be trained and built, capacity to be built in the right places.
As many South Africans, my knowledge of sign language is quite limited, but what I do understand, and you can perhaps correct me if I'm wrong, is that sign language works in correlation with specific other written and spoken languages. So South African Sign Language, does that convert to English? And will there be other versions of sign language for people to communicate in sign language related to other South African languages? Or is it all one standard version and I've got it completely wrong?
You are not wrong, but it is a distinct language which has got its own grammatical structures, its own lexical structures, such that even if there are different versions, just like any language has variations, but there are core issues that are known for by all that communicate and use this specific language. And as you are saying, we will all learn. And if we all have got a political will to support this, and we have an interest in inclusivity, in accessibility, in equality, I think all of us must tune and say we want to learn this particular language. When the 11 languages were officialized, I think we also had a challenge in how we will be able to juggle all the 11 languages. Here's the 12th one. Let us juggle with it. Let us learn it. Let us practice it. If it means going to school, for the sake of the children, for the sake of the communities that we work with, let's do so. For example, the Nelson Mandela Children's Parliament, on the 10th sitting, elected the president called Hamza Mohammed as its president. He was deaf. And we celebrate that this is part of the contribution that the young people have done. And my reading from the Viz Center of Studies, it says about 17 children every year are born daily, not every year, daily are born deaf and or hard of hearing. So the population is increasing, and therefore, because the population is increasing, all of us must try to learn this language one way or the other.
Absolutely, and possibly, a good way to start is seeing more sign language spoken in the media, on television shows, the news, popular children's shows, and that would be a way to include and make it more acceptable and break down some of that stigma. But we do appreciate your time. Thank you so much for speaking to us, and good luck for the rest of this monumental journey. That was the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund's Dr. Stanley Maposa speaking to us just a little less than a week after sign language was officially signed into the 12th official language of South Africa. Now,